Right, and welcome back. I've now done all 4 tyres as it says in step 5. Now when you mount the rims to the tyres, you've got to make note of the tread pattern, because the tread pattern on the right tyre is different to the tread pattern on the left tyre. You have to be very wary of that pattern. Once you've figured that pattern out and you've mounted the rims into the tyres, then you've got to do the decals. You get 4 decals. You've got your Michelin, a Nikkei, Rally Art, and a very small Mitsubishi logo. So that's what I've done. So I did the Nikkei first, put that on, then put the Rally Art on, and then very carefully put the Mitsubishi one on the inside. That was quite difficult to get it in there, to be honest. Once they're dried with a microset, I then micro-soled those on all 4 tyres and let those dry. Once I'd let those dry, I gloss coated them and let that dry. The Michelin logo decals are those ones where you put them onto the tyre back to front, and then you just dip your finger in the water and just go over the Michelin, and then eventually after a few seconds the backing paper will just slide off, and then I just got my cotton buds and dabbed those down and let those dry. Once they're dried, I then gloss coated them, let that dry on all 4 tyres, and then I matte coated them so the Michelin will blend in with the tyre, because the tyre's not even shiny at all. But now the tyres are done, they're now ready to be mounted on the completed so far chassis. Right, some more work on the Lancer. I started work on the interior, but before I explain the interior, you can see now that I've mounted all 4 wheels onto the brake hubs on the underneath of the chassis. Going back to step 5, on the previous update I was just putting the rims on the tyres, taking note of the tread pattern. Now inside the brake hub, if you remember, there's like a little polyprop sleeve, like a rubber sleeve. So you just push those into place with them mounting tabs on the back of the wheels, and they went in very easy on all 4 tyres. So this is now resting on the tyres. Right, finishing step 5 off and going on to step 6. There's 2 parts to step 6, and this is the interior parts. You can see there's a lot of parts that I've had to put on. So I'll start from the top of step 6. So I'll start with B7, which is this like L-shaped back part here. There's a couple of boxes on there that need painting. You've got the gunmetal and the red, black. Now those mount into some little notches at the back. I don't know if I can, yeah, just above my file there, there's like a square with a rectangular notch inside. And then you've got this part here at the back. That just slips into there on both sides, underneath there, and I just ran some glue at the back to hold that into place. Once that was done, I then, on the sprue, I painted C30, which is this blue part, which connects onto the back of the square bits here, which are black on the inside wall and blue on the top wall. And there's a little notch that goes into the C shape of the bracket of C13. Just push that into place. Then you've got the little tank here, which is C27. It's black with some little red strapping on, and then there's a decal on there, as it explains there. So you've got black, those are white, the strapping's red, and then you've got a number 66 decal. So that's on there. You can probably just make it out. Next was C. What was that number now? Bloody clip's hiding it. So then you've got C10, which is like a handbrake assembly. So that's that there. And that sits on top of that red painted bit on the chassis. So you got blue, white for the handbrake. Oh. And then you got the change of the shifter. You got like a black and a silver top. There's the blue bit there. Then you've got C8, which is this little square box here for the driver's feet. I've also put in, what's that number? C7, which is the pedals. So they were black with matte black on the pedals. Then you've got C25 and C26, which is the radiator. So I've painted that in the aluminium and black for the fans. So that's the top part of step 6 done. Bottom part. First off, you've got, well, the fan radiator. You've got this I think that's a radiator engine thing. You've got silver. You've got the decal, which is number, what's the decal? Number 62. I'm just waiting for the microsol to dry. And then you've got blue, red, and blue again for this tubing. That sits on the inside there. As it says on the plans, you've got C25, C26, and you've got the engine that just sits underneath there. Then you've got C9, which is the other footwell for the co-driver, and you've got a fire extinguisher. Now the fire extinguisher, it tells you just to paint the strap in red, the handle in red, and X11, which is silver. But looking on the internet for some rally fire extinguishers, I found that was red, so I painted that in the red. And then there's a decal on there as well, which is number 67. And you've got some various other bits and bobs. You've got another assembly that sits behind the handbrake, which is C38, which is that there. The black, white and the blue. You've got a box there, which is C3. You've got a box, which is C5, and another box, which is C2. So that's those. So that's C2. That one's C3, and that one's C5. And then last but not least, you've got number B3, which is like a triangular cross arm. So you glue the boxes in first, then you put this cross arm in here, which is a mounting hole just underneath there, and there's a mounting rectangular piece, and you just push that into place. A rather lengthy explanation, but that's the first part of the interior done. Right, I'm now going on to step 7 on the Lancer. You've got the bucket seats and the braces that are underneath. Now the braces, I've painted those on the sprue, which is B11 and B12. Those are in red. So those will sit underneath the bucket seats and then will sit into the chassis. Now with the bucket seats themselves, it tells you to paint it in matte black. But what I've done is I've painted them in anthracite. And as you can see, I think the anthracite makes the carbon look better as opposed to matte black. Now with the two seats, which are, what was it, C22, I've got to put some decals on the seat belt, and then there's a massive back decal on there. Right, so there's the back decals, which is number 48. And then you've got the seatbelt decals, and it's telling you to put some name decals on as well, so I've got to do that next. Right, welcome back. I've now finished the bucket seats, the decaling work, and they're now sitting on their mounting frames. So, when I'd left you, I'd just painted the seats in the anthracite, and I was explaining about the number 48 decal, which is the decal that sits on the back, which is that decal there. So I'll put the microset on, put the decal off its paper, put it on the back, and then folded the side pieces over on both sides. Also, here on the back, there was a slit there, so you had to pull this top piece down and pull the bottom piece up. Once that had set, I then put the microsol on. Took about 3 coats to get that to go down, but it sucked it into all the raised parts lovely, and around the back here of the seat belt holes, I had to line them up properly. Once that was done and the microsol had dried, I then sealed them with a satin coat. Once that was finished, I then put the decals on, which is mainly the seat belts. So you got the back seat belts which go over the shoulders and down the chest, the torso. That was decal number 57. Then you've got the decal which goes around the waist and between the legs. That decal was number 61. Then this little OMP decal here. You've got the name tag, there's the co-driver for Tommy Michelin. I can't pronounce his name, unfortunately. And on Tommy Makinen's seat, there's the Tommy Michelin decal there. So once all those had set with the micro set, I then put the microsol on. It's gone down really well. And then I sealed them with the satin coat. So you can see all the decals there, the seat belts, the lights showing them up nice. Once the satin coat had dried, I then mounted them onto their frames, which are those underneath. Now for Tommy Makinen's seat, it's B12, and the co-driver seat, it's B11. Oops. Now on the actual tops of the brackets themselves, you've got these little raised armatures, these little rectangular pieces. Them slot on the inside, because you've got like a smaller edge, like triangle, and then a larger edge, and you just push those in, you squeeze them in slightly, and then we'll go in, just put the glue down, and the glue's dried an absolute treat, and then they're sitting on the phone. So now these seats are ready to be mounted into those little grooves there on the chassis. Right, I've now glued the seats into place. On Tommy Makinen's seat, you can probably just about make out, there's a little groove there, there's one there at the back. It glues onto a little raised block coming out of the chassis there, and there's a little slight groove there. So I'll just put a drop of glue in each of the grooves there. Now on the co-driver's seat, there isn't really a groove, to be honest. There's one there, but on the rest of them, it just rests on the side wall of the chassis. And then on this part here, there's a little indented groove that starts there and ends there. And that little part of this edge seat there, that sits on top of that. So I've just run the little bits of glue around each corner. And that's the seats now glued into place. Not looking too bad at all.